Previously on Bush War.
UNITA het altyd krediet gevat vir alles wat ons gedoen het. Ek meen, hulle het skepe gesink in Mosambike, in Mosambikese hawe. Nou, kyk, jy kan nie daar enige UNITA naby die see bring, hy is homself mos doodskrik.
They had the year superiority, they occupied Angola, most part of southern Angola, and they had the liberty to go in and to come out and to determine all the activities of the operational theatre.
The early 80s, negotiations about independence for South Africa's fifth province, Southwest Africa, were hopelessly stuck, but the Bush War kept building momentum. Foot soldiers felt the heat of the escalation. The Angolan Defence Force, FAPLA, entered into the battle between SWAPO and the SADF. For the first time since Operation Savannah in 1975, South Africa and FAPLA were crossing swords. Heavy metal was being rolled out.
The war had been getting more and more serious. SWAPO had been bringing their mines and mortar bombs and Katusha rockets and so on down close to the Angola border by vehicle, okay? And then they would stockpile them there, and then at the right moment they'd sneak across, plant their mines, fire a few rockets, and then race back into Angola. And by the time we realized what was going on, they were safe on the other side of the border again.
En hulle magte was beskerm deur die konvensionele magte van die Angolese weermag, naamlik FAPLA. En hulle was natuurlik ondersteun deur die Kubane en die Oost-Duitsers en deur die Russe.
From 1978, that's why we talked about changing the whole strategy. We decided to create also regular forces, not only to protect our installations that were spread across Angola, but also our own people were deployed on Zambia and also in Angola. And also, actually, the aim was to also use these mechanized units to engage.
SWAPO and FAPLA put on a show of strength with new, sophisticated weaponry. The opposing guerrilla force in the field, UNITA, had to respond quickly with the help of its ally, South Africa. The inflow of Soviet weaponry posed a serious threat.
Eventually, we used those mechanized units effectively against UNITA and in some cases also South African invading forces.
UNITA leader Jonas Savimbi had relied on South Africa since the mid-70s. The alliance had advantages for both sides.
Hulle het die rol gespeel in daai geval van die insurgente en en ons het nou al jare die skoen aan die ander voet gehad.
From the outset, the South African Defence Force had heavier weapons than the guerrillas. However, the bushfighters' arsenal developed with the changing face of the war.
We started with carbines in SWAPO. And the carbine is a weapon that really you cannot use in modern war because it takes time. You know, you have to cock it and pull it and put in something there and then again. And by that time, an enemy should have been fired at you almost 5 times. But then from 1976, it changed from carbine to AK, automatic rifle. And AK is a very powerful weapon because even if it is weight, even if you keep it in water for 2 months, pick it up and start firing, it will work.
Behind men like Alex Kamwe, the heavier weaponry of the Soviet Union changed the nature of the war, introducing armoured vehicles, radar-controlled anti-aircraft artillery, and missiles. UNITA would have to match this development with the help of the SADF.
Ek het gereeld met Dr. Savimbi gepraat en dan het hy vir ons soort van 'n aanduiding gewees vir myself en 'n paar van die ander senior mense in die Denel groep wat hulle moes steun. Maar toe met 'n dag, toe draai daai Savimbi om, toe sê hy vir my, kyk, ons soek goed wat toerusting permanent kan beskadig, want hulle kan soldate baie maklik vervang. Hulle loop na die naaste plek toe waar daar van my volk sit sonder kos en hulle het nie werk nie en hulle sê, right, ons betaal 2 etes 'n dag vir 'n soldaat. En dan het hulle skielik 10,000 soldate weer daar. Ek moet nie met hierdie wille wapens hier aankom en net eenvoudig soldaat vir soldaat hier probeer uitskiet nie. Bring vir my 'n ding wat ek die ouens kan seermaak in hulle sakke. Toe het ons begin wapens bou, myne bou, wat nie die mense doodmaak nie, maar wat die toerusting beskadig met die maklikste manier en die moeilikste om reg te maak.
The idea was to cross into Namibia with those mechanized units. But the Angolan government could not allow us, advised that it's a wrong thing maybe to do. That's actually what prevented us, nothing else. So that would have been a total different type of warfare.
I mean, there's no question that the pattern of Soviet arms supplies to these guerrilla movements and to the host countries did change somewhat the military equation. That said, I don't think that most of the leadership believed there was going to be a conventional attack against South Africa proper, launched from a place like Angola.
Uit 'n suiwere takties militêre oogpunt kon ons nie toelaat dat daai situasie so eskaleer dat SWAPO en FAPLA geïntegreerd is, so vlak op die Swagrens en dan aanvalle op die mense in Suidwes-Afrika doen nie.
Like you said, it was extremely difficult in some cases to differentiate between FAPLA and SWAPO. And as far as our aim and was concerned, they were not different.
Die opdrag van die leer was eenvoudig. Ons moes die mense van Suidwes beskerm teen terreuraanvalle van SWAPO.
Early in 1981, intense preparations started for South Africa's largest ever cross-border operation. It was preceded by a number of smaller operations, with 3-2 Battalion and the airborne troops in the forefront. In 1980 was a brutal year. Operation Skeptic ushered in the era of heavy metal. Skeptic saw 2 clashes with mechanized SWAPO columns. During the withdrawal, the SADF also came to blows with FAPLA. In the smell of hot oil and the dust from the wheels of Ratels, Operation Protea was born.
Then they went to attack the FAPLA brigade at Shangongo. And then later on another FAPLA brigade at Onjiva.
Die doel was om SWAPO's bevel- en beheerstructuur te ontwrig of te vernietig en so ook sy logistiese stelsel.
The aim actually was to try to take out certain FAPLA strategic positions in the Kunene province, and eventually also to limit the free movement of SWAPO guerrillas in those areas, and to some extent, I think, put difficulties or pressure on the logistics system or logistic organization of SWAPO.
Operasie Protea in baie gevalle word deur die internasionale gemeenskap gesien as 'n klassieke operasie. Die eerste keer wat ek glo na die Tweede Wêreldoorlog waar ons weer so grootskaalse mag in so tipe operasie aangewend het, waar ons konvensionele vermoëns teen konvensionele vermoëns gebruik.
South Africa tested new weapon systems. Artillery ammunition was upgraded. The new Valkyrie multiple rocket launcher was put into the field. Drills included large-scale deployment of airborne troops, but in the event, they never used their parachutes during Operation Protea. They were deployed as infantrymen in the forefront of the attack. Once again, the Air Force would play an important role.
And we were all briefed on this thing. And the funny thing was that we were all briefed and said, now you must go back and you must prepare your squadron to deploy up to Ondangwa and Grootfontein, but you mustn't tell them what it's for. Nobody must know what it's for. Now this is a naive in the extreme, because you go back to your squadron and you have to get the the maintenance officer, and you say, Chris, man, I'd like the airplanes configured with bomb racks and missile racks and you know, and he said, what for? And now, you know, they are not stupid. They know as well that what's going to happen, and so all the airplanes are properly configured. And then you say to the pilots, the pilot comes to you and he says, "Sir, could I have leave over such as?" No, you can't. Oh, hell, that's tough. So why not? I don't know, but you know, you can't have leave. You make sure that you're here over that time. So everybody actually knew that we were in for a big thing.
Small groups of Special Forces operators were delivered by air long before the operation to gather information. They would later be redeployed to monitor the reaction of the enemy.
And the big concern was that the Angolan Air Force might try and interdict or bomb our ground forces. So it was important for us to take out the enemy's air defense capabilities. And what that means is an airplane, unless it's guided from the ground by a radar set, is actually blind. You can throw him up into the blue. His chance of seeing anybody or anything is pretty remote because it's a big sky, you know. But under guidance from ground radar, then it's a different matter.
Ons het baie goeie inligting gehad van die doelwitte. Gedetailleerde lugfoto's het bestaan wat ons kon vertolk het. Dit is bevestig met verkenners by die doelwitte wat vir ons aanleiding kon gee of as daar enige verskuiwings of dinge kon plaasvind.
Operation Protea would be one of the largest air operations of the whole war. The Air Force made 138 aircraft available.
Die konsep van die operasie het voorsiening gemaak vir autonome lugaanvalle op 2 radarstellings by plekke Kahama en Chibemba. Hierdie 2 radarkomplekse het deel gevorm van 'n sambreel-netwerk waaronder SWAPO sowel as FAPLA vrylik kon rondbeweeg omdat enige lugaktiwiteite in daai gebied maklik opspoorbaar sou wees.
And then we deployed for Protea. And we went up to, our squadron operated out of Grootfontein. And the reason for that is that the main fighter base, or the main air base, was on Dangwa, but there were so many airplanes up there for this operation. There just wasn't space for us, the Canberras or the Buccaneers.
Daar's 22 dissiplines betrokke in so 'n beplanningsproses. Tot mens nader moet bepaal hoeveel rolle toiletpapier per man daar moet wees.
Van Grootfontein tot in Pretoria, waar die hooflogistieke basis van die Suid-Afrikaanse magte was, is 'n afstand van 2200 km. Dit beteken, dit is van Pretoria af, Kaapstad toe en omtrent die helfte weer terug, wat ons met treine, per pad en per lug die voorrade moes aangebring het. Brandstof is vanuit Suid-Afrika af Grootfontein toe gestuur, per trein. Die ammunisie en rantsoenpakke en ander voorrade was per trein gestuur tot op Grootfontein.
From Grootfontein to the border was a further 250 kilometers, and the target area was a little beyond that.
Dit is van omtrent van Johannesburg af in die omgewing naby Bloemfontein. Maar dit beteken dat jy nie op die pad mag ry nie. Jy ry van die pad af, want die pad was vol landmyne. So jy moes daai konvooie, moes jy van die pad af deur die bosse in digte sand, moes jy jou logistieke voorsiening gedoen het.
Landmines have been used since World War I. It is effective, cheap and easy to employ. From a military perspective, it is attractive when faced with a shortage of troops. It doesn't need food, water or discipline and cannot be shot dead. But it is always controversial, because neither can it recognize the difference between soldiers and civilians or react to a command to stop your fire. Long after peace agreements have been signed, landmines still lie in wait. In Angola, all sides used landmines.
We had a group called, which was dealing with landmines, we called them engineers. Those engineers dealt with mines. They were experts in that field. Whereas we were also experts in our fields of reconnaissance and all those fields which we were assigned to do.
En dan maak hulle hierdie snaakse ladings wat ons ook onder geboet het op 'n stadium, wat SWAPO teen ons gebruik het.
So you wanted something that can take out a hippo. And that we did effectively to the extent that they had to change from a hippo completely, phase it out, and then introduce a new type of equipment. And then because of the threat of mines, they also realized that some of the type of vehicles were not even safe. So they built a Casper, and then later also a Wolf.
In reaction to the challenges in the field, South Africa's arms developed in leaps and bounds. Scientists like Vernon Joint devoted all their time to finding solutions. Landmines were a major problem. The answer was the Casper, which is used to this day in wars like the one in Iraq. At the time, the guerrillas found it a hard nut to crack.
Of course, also they deployed later on the Kufut with the Caspers.
Caspers were armoured, mine-protected troop carriers Joint and his team originally developed for the police unit, Kufut.
Of course, in the first time when we met the Caspers, it was difficult for us we had to adjust in order for us to be able to deal with the Caspers, because we had to increase our anti-transport weapons in terms of the RPG-7 and also rockets on the rifles, which we got from Yugoslavia, and they were very effective against the Caspers. Of course, the Caspers also, when they had these mine-resistant vehicles, we also devised tactics and means to blow them up. We doubled our mines.
Later, Caspers would also be used by the Southwest Africa Territorial Force and elements of the SADF like the Romeo Mike teams of 101 Battalion. But in 1981, the Casper had not entered the scene. During Operation Protea, the Ratel was deployed as infantry fighting vehicle. The Buffel, with its familiar V-shaped undercarriage, served as mine-protected troop carrier. The area where Operation Protea would play out was flat, sandy and overgrown, with wide open plains here and there. Minefields and anti-personnel mines were a constant risk.
This is what we did. In all those ways which we knew South Africa could pass there, we could plant landmines to delay them. And those mines could also use as signals, because once they detonate a landmine, we know that, aha, there they are coming. But our strategy was also very, very complicated, because if we plant one mine here, we will plant another one somewhere there. If they happen to, oh, this one has detonated a landmine, let's pass the other way. Oh, okay, there's another there, let's pass the other way. So the whole convoy could get finished without even reaching us.
South Africa drew on knowledge and experience gained since 1966 to withstand the onslaught.
Ons het elke keer wat een van daai panserkarre 'n landmyn slaan, het ons 'n man verloor. En ons het 'n studie gedoen oor hoekom breek hy goed. En dis waar ons geleer het dat panserplaat werk nie. Toe die Ratel gekom het hy een voordeel gehad. Want een ding wat ons goed geleer het is dat en ons leer dit nou vir al die ontwerpers, dat die onderste 3 voet van die grond af behoort aan die vyand. As jy met een van jou voertuig se komponente in daai 3 voet is, beter hy dit verdomp sterk wees, want die myn of die lading op die sypaadjie of wat ook al, gaan 'n klomp grond skep, en hy gaan dit teen daai voertuig se komponente in daai plat laag gooi, met genoeg mag en krag, wat om ten minste 30 maal sterker maak as skoon springstof.
Around the villages of Ongiva and Shangongo, the SADF could expect extensive defensive positions. If the enemy evacuated the trenches and bunkers ahead of time, they would leave them covered in booby traps and mines. This became a focus of the preparations.
Die doelwit is gesimuleer op die opleidingsterrein by Oshiwelo, die uitleg van die basis en doelwit wat ons moes aanval. So kilometers loopgrawe is op die skietbaan gegrou, waar die kuns het gelê in die inbraakgevegte in loopgrawe en om bankers op te ruim.
Elke vegspan het sy eie ratelherwinning gehad. En wanneer 'n voertuig vassit of ondiensbaar raak, moes daai tiffiespan vorentoe gaan en ten spyte van vyandelike vuur, moes hulle gegaan het om daai ratel uit te trek en om dan net uit die gevegsgebied uit te trek en om hom te kan herstel. En daai ouens het onder geweldige moeilike omstandighede moes hulle opgetree het, en dit is wat hulle gedoen het om die ratel onder vuur te gaan uithaal.
Ons moes byvoorbeeld die drywers geleer het om wiele om te ruil binne 7 minute. Want as jy langer as 7 minute staan, val jy terug en dan moet jou pakkie of jou groep stop. En dit het ons gedoen 15-20 keer 'n dag.
Mortar groups form part of every infantry deployment, providing supporting fire. Intensive training on these weapons was part of the preparation for Operation Protea. Even so, not everything could be foreseen. Rattles could break down or be hit, landmines could explode. But the biggest surprises came from people. Roland de Vries, commander of a combat group, requested a few troops to guard his base during Operation Protea. Pretoria headquarters sent 12 men.
Min het ek geweet dat dit van die onopleibare troepe was wat destyds nog as skurwande bekend gestel was, wat nie toegelaat was om wapens te gebruik nie. My samajor het hierdie troepe genaal, hulle het by my aangekom by my bataljon, ek het hulle verwelkom, ons het hulle tente vir hulle gegee, ons het hulle gesê hulle taak is om na die basis om te sien as korveetroepe. Was om die tweede dag toe my dokter en my kapelaan by my aankom en sê ons het 'n ernstige probleem, daar is troepe wat ernstig beseer is, wat nie Siekeboeg lê. Ek het hierdie troepe toe besoek, maar niemand wil met ons praat nie. Absoluut stilte, geen informasie wat uit hierdie situasie uit voortspruit nie. Op 'n stadium het ek met my klein bevelsgroep gaan sit en sê, dit is tyd vir 'n bietjie kreatiewe probleemoplossing, want elke oggend het ek nog gewonde troepe wat in die Siekeboeg lê, en dit terwyl ons voorberei vir 'n operasie. Ons kom toe tot die slotsom dat alles normaal was, totdat die 12 troepe van die Genieskool af by 6-1 Meg Bataljonsgroep aangekom het. En ek vra toe, wie is die leier van hierdie bende? Hulle sê toe, daar's 'n troep, sy naam is Captain Payne. En ek sê toe vir hulle, 10:30 kantoorhouding in my kantoor, my terrepunt daar by 6-1, ek wil hierdie kaptein Payne onder oog kry. 10:30, marcheer die samajor hom in, ek sê vir die samajor onttrek, ek vat my stoel, skuif uit agter my lesenaar, gaan sit my stoel neer, ek sê vir Captain Payne, kom sit op die stoel hier voor my. Ek sê vir hom, hoekom noem hulle jou Captain Payne? Hy het toe so overall aan, so vaal overall, en hy knoop toe sy overall op, toe wys hy vir my, toe hy 3 sterre getatoeëer op hierdie skouer, 3 sterre getatoeëer op hierdie skouer. Hy sê, I'm the captain of this team of mine. Toe sê ek van, what's going on? Hy sê vir my, commandant, I know you're preparing to do an assault into Angola. And if you leave me here with my 11 troops, I'm going to destroy your base. I want to go with.
Next up on BushWar. Captain Payne goes to war. D-Day for Operation Protea.